Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Full Court Press. I am your host, Drew Duncan. Do not forget that Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan83. Additionally, you can find me on YouTube. Simply look for Drew Duncan. And, of course, the Full Court Press is on Facebook and Instagram as well. Folks, I am super thrilled to have our next guest on the program. He is a Kansas State alumnus where he played quarterback, and his most noted season is 2015 when he helped lead the Wildcats to a bowl victory. He is currently the quarterback for the Wichita Force, and he's right here on the Full Court Press. His name is Joe Hubener. Joe, thank you so much for joining the program.
Glad to be on.
First of all, did you guys get any weather out there yesterday in Clearwater?
We did. Storms got pretty bad for a little bit, but sounds like the worst part stayed north of 54. So,
yeah, we caught it really bad out here in the Wichita area. So there were tornado sirens and warnings going off throughout Sedgwick County. Glad to see that everybody is safe out there. As I made mention of, Joe, you are a Kansas State alum. It's no secret that Snyder is no longer with the Wildcats. Their new coach coming out of North Dakota State is going to have some huge shoes to fill, despite winning 3 titles in the last 5 years down there in Subdivision 2. You played under Snyder. What is he like as a coach and as a person?
Certainly he's got a huge resume as a coach, having turned around K-State not once but twice. What is he like as a coach? He's very much a perfectionist, as you would expect. And that's what it takes at that level. You have to expect perfection. And so Coach Snyder really just emanates that philosophy that you're going to come in, you're going to work, and it's going to be perfect. And we're going to work until it is perfect.
You know, as I made mention of earlier, Klieman is going to have some huge shoes to fill. I think we're going to see a very different Kansas State football team, obviously, than what we're used to under Snyder. What is the expectation, you think, for Klieman? Is it immediate success, or maybe giving him a little bit of time to get the program kind of built back the way that he would prefer it?
That's a good question. Obviously, following up Coach Snyder is going to be a very difficult task. But I think Coach Klieman expects that same level of competition from himself. I see that passion from him, from what little I've been able to listen to him speak. And having come from his background, having won 3 FCS national championships, he's used to winning at a high level. And while it's not the Big 12, it's still a very difficult task to win at that level as well. So he's used to winning, and I anticipate that he's coming in with a thought that we're going to compete for the Big 12 right away.
Somebody that you had a little time to play against in the Big 12 would be one Patrick Mahomes. He's going into his 3rd year with the Kansas City Chiefs. Are we going to see what most people believe to be that sophomore slump, or are you not really worried about that with a guy like Mahomes, and he's just that good of a quarterback?
Patrick Mahomes is a fantastic quarterback. Yes, obviously, like you said, had the opportunity to compete against him in college while he was at Texas Tech, and the guy's just a playmaker. You saw it on Saturdays, you see it on Sunday now. He just has a knack for just making plays when nothing's there. And I'm hoping, I'm kind of wishful thinking, I'm hoping that we don't see that sophomore slump. I think that he's such a competitor that I don't think we're going to see much fall off, if any. Obviously, there's some issues with other personnel in the organization that they're trying to work through. So I think that will have more of an effect on his next season than him personally. I think he's enough of a competitor, and he's going to come out and he's going to find ways to make plays just like he did last year and just like he did in college.
You know, it's been deemed that Kyler Murray has already been named the starter with the Arizona Cardinals. Patrick Mahomes sat out for a full year under Alex Smith and learned the game of football a little bit more. One of my favorite quotes is from Bubby Brister, who started from his rookie year on in the NFL, but then sat behind John Elway and said, I learned more watching John Elway play than I ever did as a starter in that league. Are we rushing our athletes too much to be immediate starters in the NFL instead of giving them time to learn a system, learn a playbook, learn how to be that leader and progress under schemes in the NFL?
I think that's a difficult question to answer just because it really depends on the situation within the team. Obviously I haven't had experience playing at that level, but I can imagine the situations within the team are really going to dictate that. Obviously, last year, KC had an experienced starter in Alex Smith. And even while they were probably thinking, after drafting Mahomes, that they were thinking that's their guy going forward, it had to have been hugely beneficial for him to have an experienced leader there to kind of show him the ropes. Obviously, the Cardinals is a bit different situation. Josh Rosen being a young quarterback himself, they don't have that established leader for Kyler to learn from. So it might truly be trial by fire, just throwing him in there and expecting him to pick it up on the go. And so I think that's really what it comes down to. As far as young athletes being forced into a starting role, it really depends on the situation within the team currently.
Talking to Joe Hubener right here on the Full Court Press. He is your Wichita Force quarterback. You know, Joe, it's always easier to talk to the media following a victory. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. I think some people may look at the last score and say 70-30, you guys got walloped. But scoring is a different ball game in the Arena Football League. Going forward, though, obviously in the next week, what are some ways that you guys feel like you can improve maybe defensively? Because offensively, I feel like you guys have been pretty good throughout the season.
Offensively, we still have a long ways to go. We still have a lot of young players, myself included, that are still trying to adapt to the game. And that's what a lot of people don't understand is unless you've truly watched indoor football or played it yourself, I mean, it's a different game. It's a lot of different stuff going on schematically. There's a lot of different stuff going on with just the size of the field causing problems. And so offensively, we're still growing, and we've had some sparks, and it's just a matter of making those sparks a lot more consistent. So that's what we're devoting our practice to is making sure that we're all on the same page and making sure stuff really fits up against the defenses that we're expecting to see. Defensively, yes, the score looks bad, but that falls on everybody. That's an offense thing. That's a special teams thing. Offensively, we put our defense in some bad situations a few times with turnovers and setting up the opposing offense for a short field. And that happened offensively, that happened in special teams. So it doesn't all fall on their shoulders. It's a team game, and certainly they've got things to work on as well. But really, throughout the most part, they've been able to slow down some really, really high-powered offenses.
In terms of your personal game and adjusting, one of the things that you talked about is the size of the field. And it's not just the length at 100 yards, it's the width, which you got used to playing at a little over 50 yards. So for you, how difficult was it to sort of make those adjustments, knowing that maybe you're not going to have as much room as before for ball placement and throwing receivers open in some of those situations where windows would maybe be available to you before that weren't now?
That's truly the biggest difference and the hardest adjustment. The length of the field, that doesn't make a huge difference. If anything, that makes it easier. When you're standing on the goal line, you can attack the end zone. But it's the width of the field that truly makes a difference. It makes everything feel twice as fast because there's so much less room for a defender to travel. So it really, like you said, it shrinks those windows. It makes it a lot easier for one defender to play two receivers. And so that's truly been the biggest adjustment in the indoor game.
Well, and it takes away a lot of routes too, I would imagine, because again, when you have a wider field, you're looking at wheel routes, you're looking at longer out routes. You can do a 10 and out, obviously, and you have got room to throw it more along the sideline so a receiver can stretch and get him, throw him open again. So when it came to that aspect, was it easier to maybe learn some of the plays because there weren't obviously as big of route trees when you got involved in the Arena Football League?
It does to a degree. Yes, there are routes that you run outdoor that aren't quite as feasible indoor. And you can still run them to a degree, but it's different how they're run, and it's different the ball trajectory has to be. I mean, when you think of a corner route in the outdoor game, you have so much more room to put a touch ball out there and let the receivers run. Whereas a corner route in the indoor game, it's a lot lower trajectory. And kind of how you mentioned with squeezing the field and limiting some of those routes, part of that also has to do with there's a wall there.
Right.
In the outdoor game, I mean, they talk about the boundary is essentially another defender. Well, it's the same thing, but now that boundary you can't just run through. You're going to get punished if you're running towards the wall. So defenders, a good defender in this game knows how to take advantage of the wall and really force the route toward the wall. And so that's something that you have to adjust to schematically and in your route running and in knowing where the receiver is to place the ball, because you don't want to put him right in the wall if you don't have to.
Joe, as I do with all of my guests at the end of an interview, I give them an opportunity to say whatever it is that's on their mind. There is no right or wrong answer here. The floor is 100% yours.
I guess the only thing I would say is that we appreciate the support. Speaking for all of our guys, we appreciate the fans that show up and support us. We're going to keep working and keep getting better, and we look forward to seeing people pack Interest Bank this upcoming Friday.
Joe, thank you so much for being on the program, and best of luck to you going forward for the rest of the season with the Wichita Force.
Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome. All right, everybody. He is Joe Hubener, quarterback, Wichita Force. I am Drew Duncan, host of the Full Court Press. Don't forget, when you share this post, to use the hashtag Don't You Dare Touch That Dial. And as always, don't you dare touch that dial.